honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and indeed an honor this morning to be chairing a panel of such distinguished speakers and movers and shakers in Fujairah. And I'm delighted to be here this morning. I would like to thank Fujairah Free Zone in particular for organizing such a splendid conference. And the organizers, of course, Mr. Tahir Akhtar and Mr. Sharif for their hospitality and for them taking care of all the attendants and the delegates. This morning, in this session, we will be tackling the big elephant, which is the SME. And our agenda this morning is to see what role SME will play in the future success of Fujairah. SMEs are universally recognized as the most responsive engine of economic growth. They are a bit like the ants. No one can see them because they're too small, but the work they do is so substantial that the result can be seen by everyone. And you could see some of these ant hills, which are bigger than the individual ants. So someone correctly said that SMEs are the ants in the ant hill, rather than the more glamorous animals of the forest that we would call Pepsi Cola and so on. And although that's glamorous, but they are more productive. Recognizing the importance of this sector, the UAE government has already taken a number of important initiatives, particularly over the last couple of years. And a national plan to direct and drive the economic development by enhancing the role of SMEs as a major supporter of the national economy has been put into action. And I will quote Mr. Sultan bin Saeed Al Mansouri, the UAE Minister of Economy. I quote, "The ministry will be the federal authority responsible for developing the country's SME following an official request from the cabinet." Quote closed. First of all, for us to tackle what the SME is, also known in some parts of the world as SMB, which is a small and medium-sized business. However, most people within the Middle East or in Europe will use the small and medium-sized enterprise as the main nomenclature. And we will be sticking to this for our entire session this morning. So there are 15 different definitions of SME depending on where you go and what sector you want to apply it to. But for the purpose of keeping it simple, as majority falls into this, we will consider an SME as an enterprise that has less than 250 employees and a turnover of less than 250 million UAE dirhams. Data available within the Middle East and particularly in the UAE is perhaps a little scarce. So we will try to compare and try to see how the future of Fujairah will develop when it compared to established players within this world. And I will refer mostly to my own hometown of London and UK economy in particular, as there are a lot of resemblances and we see Fujairah going in that direction. When we look at the distribution of small and medium-sized enterprise in Europe, we will see the majority of it has no employees. This is 4.8 million businesses are registered as enterprises. This is in the private sector, excludes the public sector in the United Kingdom, and out of them majority do not employ any workforce. So it is a single person that is the owner, manager of the business. This would have come as a surprise to many of you, thinking that in so-called advanced world, the things would be different, but they are not. Out of 4.8 million registered enterprises in the United Kingdom, only 6,000 are large corporates. So in this graph, you probably cannot even identify the sliver of the established companies. If you look at the employment provided by the SMEs, then again on your right, other than the one block which is separated from the rest, these are all the SMEs that are providing employment within the United Kingdom. And they provide 60% of all employment in the private sector. Again, the SME, it employs 14.23 million people in the United Kingdom out of a working population of 30 million. One-man bands, they represent 73% of all the businesses and 7.4% of the gross domestic product. Now let's see how that fares, how that compared to UAE. Be prepared to be shocked. In fact, not much different. If you see the 78.49, this was about 79% of all the registered enterprises within the UAE, they fall again within the same group, less than 10 employees. Because the data is scarce, it was not possible to analyze more than what we have. But it shows clearly that the majority of the business within the UAE, and this will apply to most of the other economies within the GCC, they are very small micro companies that have less than 10 employees. So no great surprises here. Therefore, the models seen in Europe or in America, they're very similar. They could be applied here, and we can take possibly some guidance how to develop Fujairah. I mean, there are around 230,000 SMEs in the UAE, and almost 95% of them are in this sector. However, we will have one surprise. In terms of producing the GDP, they produce far less GDP compared to their counterparts within Europe. So the GDP of the European companies, we will see in terms of turnover. I'll come to GDP just in 1 minute. In terms of turnover, when we see that, again, most of the turnover is more than 50% of the turnover or the GDP in the Western world is provided by the SME. So the large corporates, they actually only provide 48% of the GDP. However, when we go and look at the same in the GCC or in UAE, although same number of SME enterprises, but they only produce 27% of the GDP. So there's a huge gap, which is an opportunity to enhance, improve, and grow the SMEs at least to a level which is already established, and almost double the output in terms of GDP from the SMEs. And this again is a great opportunity for Fujairah and for the free zone. Let's look at the distribution of these SMEs. If you look at the distribution of the SMEs in Europe, there are six or seven main sectors where these SMEs are predominant. Very different from what we will see in the UAE. The chunk that stands out here is the trade and repair, which is about a third of all the SMEs within Europe. However, when we look at UAE, it is almost 60%. 60% of all SME, or we would call it all trade, is SME. And now between the trade and the services, we are covering 95% of our business. So again, huge opportunity to enhance the trade and to enhance the services, an opportunity for both Fujairah and for the Fujairah free zone. So what are the requirements for SME in Fujairah? How would Fujairah develop the SME, take advantage of a wide open field and go ahead of all the competitors? If you see the various stages of our business, and as we said, the majority of the business is less than 10 people, which means that there is a large number of startups in here. Then entrepreneur being on the left-hand side and profitability right-hand at the formal operation stage. Here again, there is a huge opportunity for Fujairah. They have already taken into account that they have already taken lead compared to the other Emirates, and the pre-incorporation and registration process they have speeded up, and they have made it more practical for companies to open here. But there is a further opportunity to enhance and perhaps take some business from other Emirates. As we go to the 2011 doing business report, there is improvement. 2010 showed that the UAE on the whole was still one of the most expensive places to incorporate or to start business. There is again an opportunity for our nimble free zone to take lead here and make the upfront cost low for startups. So what are the main obstacles in the SMEs within UAE? The biggest, this is a study conducted last year, end of last year, completed end of last year, which shows all the GCC countries, but I've just picked up the data for the UAE only. The biggest problem for all SMEs is bureaucracy. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Financing is the next big problem. That the current lending is targeted to only 2% of the SMEs. And the World Bank and the Union of Arab Banks this survey of 57 banks showed that they should target 12%. So from 2% where they are currently to 12%, again manifold opportunity for business to grow and for this emirate, particularly with a very active bank. National Bank of Fujairah, by the way, was one of the leading banks funding SME within the UAE. Technical, managerial information, these systems are not as important as the first part, which is bureaucracy. Having set this scene, I would like our expert panelists to develop further on this. And may I now call please Professor Fatime Mugaddam, who will enlighten us further on how to develop the SME within the UAE. And I thank you very much for your attention.